Alright, cool. There we go. Fucking cold. What the fuck? Ugh. Man, chilling here. Come the fuck on. Actually, wait this time. What's up, man? Man, my gut's been giving me fucking issues today. Fuck. Ugh. Look half asleep. Yeah, cause I kinda am. I mean, mainly cause my gut side fucking wage war on me. Like, fucking, I had like stomach acid reflex, and then I like just like been building up in different like layers of like different things to try to like chisel out, and that feels like I'm going fucking war every single time. So today it's just like a hell. So like I don't know what the fuck you know that I could have eaten last night. I mean, I had a burrito, which that was well like in the middle of the day, so that could have been it. Oh, I did cook some eggs last night after I went to bed, and I think it might be that. Might have, like, I might have, maybe not cooked one of the eggs long enough or something like that. Sounds like after my Taco Bell night. No, I haven't had Taco Bell in a while, dude. I mean, a lot of it was just. I mean, honestly, I usually have these fucking things in the morning sometimes anyway. Like, I mean, it's honestly just typical. Like, I'll have, like, some sort of stomach acid reflex of, like, puke and shit, and then it'll be like, you know, like, gassy, chunky shit, basically. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like, it's just really fucking horrible. And it makes it feel like I'm about to, like, puke and, like, well, actually, sometimes I do with that, with just straight stomach acid at least, but sometimes it'll feel like I'm literally, like, getting, like, food poisoning or some shit like that, or, like, severe sickness, even though I'm not. At least, not that I think. I mean, I'm feeling, like, tired and worn out right now. I feel fine now. Acid reflex. Yeah, like, stomach acid. Like, like the kind of a trapdoor, so to speak, that kind of goes to your stomach. Like, it doesn't stay closed, and it's where you kind of, like, and you basically get, like, fucking a bunch of acid buildup. Sometimes to a point where you'll, like, puke it out. Where you go for, like, where you go for, like, the whole process and shit, but nothing comes out besides just stomach acid. That's it. Which, ugh, I mean, it sucks for sure. I ain't saying it's fun at all. But at least it's, like, more temporary. For a day till it passes. Or throw it all up. See, I mean, a lot of it, for me, it flares up sometimes, and for some reason, yesterday and today, like, it's flared fuck up to the point where I'm just like, ugh, out of it right now. I mean, I still got a coffee, so it's not like, fucked, but still. Actually, sometimes coffees do help. Very rarely will it make it worse, but usually it tends to actually make it pretty better. Kind of like, I think it's like the cream and stuff in the coffee that kind of helps soften, my stomach lining. Does sweet help at all? Yeah. Well, it depends. Like, I mean, yes, but if I'm taking a hit and it's like kind of, and there's like a little bit of like Scooby underneath that hit, and, a cough out that, it ain't gonna be good. I mean, but yeah, I mean, it does. And at times, the smoke makes it worse. Yeah, and also, I mean, if anything, you want to probably just avoid that anyway. I mean, I do, honestly, just because it's not exactly, at least in the more immediate sense, helpful. It is kind of once it's kind of passed a little bit, and then you're just all like kind of sore and tired and shit, and like in your gut isn't really like on the edge and shit. Like, I mean, that like is better. Like that's kind of the time when you could probably get away with doing it, and it'll actually make you feel better. And honestly, what's even shittier is that I could tell that whatever's going on in my like intestinal gut lining is not over yet. Like it certainly feels like there's something else that needs to come out, and I know it ain't gonna come out really. It's just gonna be like particulates, that are just like kind of scattered around instead of like something solid. Which fuck, shitty. No pun intended. Sometimes. Painkillers are at least reducing the pain to something manageable. I mean, for me, it's not really the pain. It's more or less just the just uncomfortability and the fucking feeling of just like having my gut all fucked up. Not necessarily the pain part of it.
Yeah.
Like my intestinal line right now feels fucked. Like it just feels horrible right now. But at least like overall, I mean, it's not unreasonable by any metric. It's not unmanageable.
Hey, one question I have: the people on these sci-fi films, they're like cafes or whatever, that can walk through walls or other people or whatever. How come that doesn't work on the Pete? So if that worked where you could just like walk through anything, why don't you just like suddenly fall to the center of the earth because you're like going through it like it's not there?
Because fuck, it's sci-fi. I don't fucking know.
I've wondered that for a long time.
It's the same thing.
I just saw that again. Just like, why the fuck? If you could just like walk through anything you want, how can you walk without dropping? Or maybe that doesn't affect your shoes.
It's like the idea of a ghost. Like if ghosts float around and shit, then hypothetically they could pass through anything, and yet they don't.
But yeah, you're not a ghost. You don't interact with the other matter in this phase of the space-time continuum. If that's so, why don't you just like plummet to the center of the earth and burn up? Even when I was a little kid, I wondered that. Just like,
Sweet, that sounds like septic shit. I don't know what he thought it was him. I'm pretty sure most dads just all sound the same. Where's my Bluetooth? I just realized, where's my Bluetooth big rat?
Oh, I got a dad joke for you.
Oh, fucking God. Here we go.
Which is heavier, a gallon of water or a gallon of butane?
Water. Well, wait a minute. Wait, what the fuck? That's a trick question. They're both weighed the same. Right?
The gallon of water weighs more because butane is a lighter gas.
Fucking God.
I heard that this morning on the radio.
Oh my fucking God. Oh my Lord.
I told you it was a dad joke.
That is...
I'm a dad, so I'm allowed to tell it.
That is probably, like, alright, that, at least for the month, hits the dad joke quota. Just with that one alone. That was like, just, wow. You swore you heard him say a gallon of blowjobs? No. He said a gallon of water or a gallon of butane. Which, technically, water would be heavier, but then I realized, wait, it's a dad joke. There's a curveball in this somewhere.
Yeah, it's a lighter gas.
And yeah, it actually would be lighter anyway, because water is, like, a seriously unforgiving force. Like, I mean, get enough water, on something, and it's can cause damage. You wouldn't think it, but it does.
Well, it depends. I've been trying to think that out scientifically. Is how much would, because butane's a gas, you have to squeeze it down.
Well, it'd be condensed.
Then you have to squeeze it down to a liquid. So you need a whole bunch more butane to make a gallon than you would water to make a gallon. I thought about that for a while, then I quit. I'm just like, scrambling my brain here for a second. I don't want to go dig into my chemistry books or anything like that.
Honey butane oil is amazing, basically dab material. Oh, butane oil? Yeah, I think that's like some of the OG, you know, like fucking oils right there. I think. Here. Man. Gotta forget my Bluetooth in my room, hold on. I gotta grab that. Ugh. Really, dog? Come on. Doggle. You sweet little tongue. Okay, there we go. I think they have come better greens for diamond than butane. Yeah, they have. And if I remember correctly, I think there technically is, like, health ramifications with using butane. Well, technically with any oil, to be frank, but at least, you know, when it comes to that, from my understanding, it, you know, can cause more issues in comparison to, like, other better alternatives at this point. At least that's, like, the one thing about vapes, like, granted, obviously, there are, like, in a way, obviously way better. But, you know, there's still, you know, different things in them that cause different problems. And it can cause different health issues. And to, you know, to essentially just say, oh, it's not bad, bro. It's just fucking silly. But, at least, like, there is, you know, like, betterment in the sense that you're not getting, like, fucking, you know, nicotine tarbs built up in your lungs and shit like that. Not anything breathing and smoke is always... Oh, yeah. Breathing, like, vape versus smoke, yeah. Like, no matter what, that's just going to be bad for your lungs. Even if there technically are, like, positive effects, you know, that can be had from that. I mean, it's, you know, because your lungs are meant to breathe oxygen, nitrogen, and shit like that. You know what I mean? Like, it's not meant to, like, you know, fucking absorb all this other shit. But, yeah, we're humans, and we don't give a fuck. Some human out there was like, you know what? I like this smoke. And then decided to just condense all of it and just went... And then realize, whoa, you can do something with this. I do wonder about, like, you know, the first, like, ape or, like, the first caveman or some shit that was, like, you know, like, that actually kind of, like, found that, you know what I mean? Like, I always wonder, who was, like, the legit true first to, like, really harness in that, you know, the idea of, like, you know, smoking something can actually kind of get you, like, high or whatever the fuck. Because obviously there's a first for everything with that, right? Like, so there has to at least be, like, the first ape or the first caveman, something, right? And then eventually that spreads, and then he's like, ooh, here, shows it to everybody. Doc was having about some weed and vape is still somewhat bad for your lungs, so that's some sauce about smoking. Eating poison berries and other things. Oh, well, yeah, there's absolutely trial and error. Like, I guarantee you, like, especially when you think about things like mushrooms, right? Like, there's a lot of mushrooms that do look like psychedelic mushrooms, and, you know, basically, like, and that can make you trip, but also at the same time, there's plenty of them that, look like them, but aren't, and are actually toxic and deadly and can kill you. So, I mean, it's, like, it certainly were like a lot of trial and error going on. In fact, anything, I bet there's plenty of people out there that assumed they thought they were, getting the right shit, and they didn't. Yeah, like Dave the Caveman, ate some berries, shot himself, and death noted. And now I'm like, my brain's kind of like pondering random shit now. Like dad, like decide to pop in and just throw some random ass like thought bomb out of nowhere. Just being like, yeah, those people that can like, what was it even? Like fucking dudes that, or and like what? Like the people that can like ethereally like pass through objects and shit. It's like, but yet can't pass through the ground or whatever. Honestly, it's called like being extra dimensional or ethereal. Like there you go. Like there's a dimensional plane that you're able to set yourself on, that is incomprehensible, nor is it visible to us. There you go. Boom. Well, I guess I wish it was in here for me to hear that, but I doubt like I'd be able to get that answer from him anyway, because he'll still be like, continuously like pondering about it while I'm trying to give him the fucking answer. Getting to openly smoke. I mean, sure, but like you can't necessarily just do that publicly. I mean, you could, honestly. I mean, like, frankly, like, the likelihood of someone stopping you or anything like that is very fucking little. Like, I mean, legit. Like, I mean, like, it's not like, cases of someone getting, like, a misdemeanor because they were too stupid and openly, smoking a shitload of weed in front of a cop. Like, it's not like it doesn't happen, but it's so fucking rare. Because, like, cops just see it as a waste of time at this point. Like, I mean, like, legit. Which is good, honestly. I'd rather, like, they look at stopping people for weed as a waste of time and don't do it. Like, I actually would prefer that. You can carry around weed without risking arrest. Well, yes and no. I mean, if you're, like, caught with, like, like a few pounds of weed, I mean, legitimately, I mean, that will still be considered, like, drug trafficking, shit like that. I mean, granted, it's, like, accessibility to drugs is decriminalized, but to a fucking limit. And, so, yeah, I mean, but realistically, what's going to happen is you're probably going to get a citation, and, they're going to probably take your joint, or something like that. Like, you're not going to get arrested or anything like that if, you happen to, like, buy a couple J's and you're hanging out with your friend at the park and smoking some weed. I doubt they get you for a couple ounces. Well, here's the caveat. They have to be in legal containers. So, stuff like this. They have to be in, like, containers like this or some sort of, like, legally binding package for marijuana to be in. Which, which predominantly would basically be these. So there's, like, they have to at least, like, be in those type of containers. And also, they have to, there's also basically being a certain amount on your person. Like, legally, you can have up to, like, you could buy at least, I think, up to, like, 2 ounces at a dispensary now. And I think legally on your person, you can have up to, like, at least recreational, if you don't have a med card, I think up to, like, 4 ounces. But I think they might bump that up to, like, 6 or something. Because when the law was first passed, the most you could buy at a dispensary was 1 ounce. But now, like, I think like a year and a half ago or something like that, they switched it to 2. So they bumped it up. And I think a lot of the reason why is just because, like, for a while, Oregon had so much weed that they didn't know what to do with it. And because, different legal states can't export it to other legal states because of our federal law being retarded. Like, I mean, it's all stuck here for the most part, unless an individual on their own, wink wink, decides to go out of state or something. But like, beyond that, there's no real way to, sell that outside to just Oregonians, basically. So there was so much that they basically, doubled, the amount that one could buy or carry in hopes that people would just buy more. Which, it kind of helps. I mean, people did take advantage of it, but I don't really think it made that much of a difference. Like, Oregon's still known for having a fuckload of weed being grown here. I mean, I don't know if it's, like, the state that has, like, the most at this point. I mean, because now you got, like, California and all these other states and shit. But, like, I mean, for a while there, Oregon was, like, the top dog when it came to weed there for a while. And at least arguably top 3 for sure still. At least just for the U.S. I mean, I'm sure if you apply Canada to this, I'm sure, honestly, they probably got it on lock, because they're all federal up there with that. But at least here, it's state by state still, so. And that's just a shitty thing. Like, I mean, honestly, a lot of these states, like, especially the West Coast, would be making bank if we were able to, like, legally, at least, export that into other legal states. Yeah, at least if the state was bordering, the other state, which means at least the entire West Coast would have an entire fucking weed industry, with each other on lock. And plus, legally, hypothetically, maybe, could work out, like, exceptionary, laws or something, with Canada to maybe even import and export marijuana, at least specifically to legal states on the border and stuff. What the fuck, dude? You have food, you got water. What's up? Doors outside, you can go outside and take a shit when you want. What, they have to follow you out there or something? Something against you for carrying personal supply, I'm happy. Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, at least in Oregon, like I said, you're not. Like, I mean, like I said, unless you're, like, overtly, like, smoking a gigantic fat J in front of a cop, like, and, like, basically rub it in on them or something like that, then they might fuck with you. But beyond that, they ain't gonna give a shit. If, like, if a cop sees you walk out of a dispensary and, just, and you're holding on to your weed container or something, they're not gonna give a fuck. I mean, as long as it's just in, its binding container and whatever the fuck and all that other shit, then who cares? I mean, and that's how it should be. Like, at least when it comes to things like marijuana and shit like that. I didn't even argue that, like, we've had this, like, mentality with all sorts of other fucking, drugs and substances. I mean, alcohol for the longest time has practically been treated like that. It's like, oh yeah, it's just granted, yes, sometimes people go to a store, buy a beer, and walk out with it. I mean, it's, like, no different. I mean, hell, like, at least around Portland, the idea of, like, doing, like, day drinking stuff and, like, like, having, like, kind of public drinking and shit isn't necessarily an uncommon or looked down thing either. I mean, it's not, like, super common to the point, like, everyone's doing it, because it's still obviously technically illegal and shit like that, but if you're hanging out with the bros at, like, the waterfront or something like that, like, and you happen to have a, like, a Truly or some shit, no one's gonna give a fuck. Like, I mean, just make sure a cop ain't by, they will fuck with you at that point, but, I mean, for the average person, no one's gonna give a shit. As long as you're not being a nuisance or causing problems with anybody else, no one's gonna care if you happen to have a brewski, hanging out with a buddy at the park or something, or hanging out at the town. Like I said, it's just as long as the cop don't see you doing that shit, because if they see that, then they will fuck with you. Because open container and all that shit. Smokey smell the catnip coma. Oh my god, dude, that cat looks like he is lit. That kitty looks lit. Silly fucking little thing. Give him a good shot of the nip. Good shot of nip. Oh, this is interesting. Trump to back out of all the GOP debates. That's what at least Kyle put out today. And honestly, I kind of feel like that's a little bullshit. He's saying that. But I still hold to my idea. He'll back out of the first, like, one or two, for sure. But I guarantee he's going to make, like, a random appearance. You know, for, like, for at least, like, the last two or so. His phone acting like I'm going to start. Numbers, dude. But, man. I'm pretty sure, like, Trump will at least at some point make his way into some of those debates. I feel like he's just trying to be like, I'm a dumb man, you know, even though honestly, realistically, it's just cowardly as fuck. So I feel like, you know, honestly, he's gonna do the extra strongman move, you know, like with this, and basically just be like, oh, I'm just gonna randomly show up for like the last one or something. Dude, he's gonna. I feel like that's what's gonna happen. He's gonna like, dude, like, I'm not doing it, and then like the last one, he'll just literally out of nowhere, last second, show up. It's like, oh yeah, today we're about to have our debates, and then an hour before we were to begin, Trump showed up to participate. You know, it's like, dude, there might be some shit like that. I just feel that in my gut, dude. And Trump knows that, like, he performs well in those debates. I mean, if there's anything that, you know, he could take away, you know, from, like, 2016 and 2020 is that, like, that's, at least to some extent, where he shines a little bit. So, I mean, especially for, like, the first few, I don't really, you know, like, see him not being there being that beneficial. Maybe for the first one, but there's going to be a lot of different candidates and a lot of different people who are going to be taking some shots at him. And frankly, obviously, rightfully so. And that's going to, at least to an extent, definitely take, you know, a little bit from his, you know, support. Because it's starting to show some cracks. And that trend is still continuing. So, at a certain point, if his support, especially within the rest of the GOP, gets low enough, he's going to be there. Absolutely. Like, I mean, it's not going to be, like, the first couple, for sure. But he's going to make a random appearance. I feel it in my gut. Honestly, it'd be funny if he showed up to the debates just to watch. Like, he shows up the first few of them, but he's in the audience. So it's like every time you see the audience camera pan back and you see, like, the moderator and see, like, some people in the audience in the background, you just see Trump's big head just hanging out there, just like, hanging out, just watching it all. That would just be, like, see, that would actually be, like, a power move. And Trump's like, I'm not doing it, but instead, he's just there, like, in the audience. That would be a power move. But he ain't gonna do that. So, you know, honestly, I feel like this whole backing out of the debate shit just makes him look bitch-made, and it's gonna bleed his support, and because of that, he's gonna have his ego hurt, and he's gonna be in the debates at least once or twice, you know, to try to bring that number back up. Because he cares about his numbers and his ego and all that shit, so. I mean, this idea that he's backing out of all of them, like, he's gonna say that, but I find it bullshit with the idea of him just backing out of every single one. Phone's giving me the fits. Yeah, I'm certainly gonna need to get a new upgrade here pretty soon myself. I've said that for a while, but now it's actually more serious. Phone's slowly but surely kind of pooping out. Look prettier in HD. Oh. Ooh woo. Or is it this? Is it this or this? I don't fucking know. Whatever the little anime ooh woo thing is. The fuck? Flash floods in the tropical storm and an earthquake hit California? They had a fucking earthquake too on top of all this? Holy fucking shit, is like revelations going on in California? Like, what the fuck?
The show.
What, it's like the fucking, like, God's wrath, you know, like, hitting California now? Like, oh my god. Jesus. Oh, you know, some pastors are gonna be like, this is what those godless atheist gays, you know, get for being in California. Oh, fuck, dude, you know that's gonna happen. It probably already has. But, dude, what, like, honestly, it would have been just a trifecta. Like, if, straight up, like, I mean, like, if there was wildfires going on, too. Flash floods, crazy rains, and then, like, on the other side of California, there's wildfires, and then earthquakes. Just, fuck, dude.
I have so many stories to get to that I don't even have time to do shameless plugs. But I will say subscribe. Definitely click that subscribe button.
I already did years ago.
Still in front of Crystal.
Wait a minute. Did his background get even bluer? Wait a minute. Dude, he made his background more blue. He, like, doubled down on the blue back there, dude. It's more bluer than it is in the past. And why does he have a stereotypical, like... Wait, does he have pets? Does he have a cat and dog? Because I thought that was, like, some generic, like, you know, hang in there, friend thing or some shit. You know how you have, like, the cat hanging on the branch? That's like, hang in there, buddy, or something. I thought it was something like that, but I think he has a wife and kid. Well, no shit, he does. But that's a picture of, you know, a cat and a dog. I think he has a... I think he might have pets. Maybe because of Crystal. Maybe she had the cat and the dog. And now he does because of it.
It's like, my number one goal when it comes to sub numbers is don't give...
I feel like he's gonna, like, you know, sell me some jewelry or something. He looks like a jewelry salesman right now.
Right.
But he looks like an honest one. He doesn't look like one who'll fuck me over. He actually looks like kind of a chill, kind of a hip one. Who, you know, who won't bullshit me a little bit. Like, he, you know, because he understands the game and, you know, he just wants, you know, people to be kind of chill with, you know, what they get and happy with it, so you don't really give that much of a fuck, you know, so he'll get paid with the commission, so he don't care. You've been doing it for like 10 years. That's the vibe I'm getting right here. Like, he's about to send me, like, a nice, beautiful, you know, 10 karat gold ring right here, dude. He's giving off that bottom end. I mean, dude, he always... I feel like you mention this literally every time Kyle is on screen. Because, yes, dude, it's Crystal. We already know, like, we've talked about this at least, like, 5 times in a few months, actually. Like, I distinctly remember having this conversation multiple times. Like, we know. We're beating a dead horse with that one.
Click that subscribe button, click that bell icon, too, so you get a lot going on, man. Right now, California is going through something that, I don't know, man, it seems fully unprecedented, I guess we can say. And I'm talking specifically about Southern California. They got hit with a hurricane.
A hurricane? Like, I mean, that's just one way to define it. I mean, oh my god. A hurricane. I mean, you know what? I'll accept the term. Like, holy fuck. I mean, I didn't think that would be a term used, but I guess it was, and it is. So, wow. How about the earthquake? I mean, like, because obviously it happened. I mean, oh, dude, like, imagine, like, you're going for a bunch of floods and shit, and then an earthquake happens. At least, you know, with the earthquake, I mean, your infrastructure is at least somewhat sound for that. With the big mythical one. Oh, yeah, with, like, San Andreas or whatever that movie was. Dude, honestly, that movie's so ridiculous. And honestly, a lot of these climate change apocalypse movies are just so ridiculous and over the top. And honestly, kind of paint this idea that, like, climate change is going to be, like, this big thing or some shit. Well, I mean, it is, but it's not something that's going to happen in, like, a day or two. where things are all nice peachy keen, and then suddenly it's like the wall of climate change just like charging, and like, you know, just like just unstoppable forces, like just like laying waste to everything. That's not how it happens. Like, I mean, it's something that basically is kind of like a mist almost. It's like it starts off with a slight mist, and then it just gets, over time, slowly and slowly, a little thicker and thicker over time. You don't really notice it.
Category 1 hurricane, now it's a tropical storm. And then at the...
Well, I mean, you do, but it's something that, you know, happens, you know, like, and you notice as it kind of starts happening over time. You're like, there's a little mist around here. And you notice that, and you accept that. And then it starts getting thicker, but you don't realize that until it's actually noticeably thicker, and you're like, this misty fog got significantly thicker. And then, you know, you get used to that, and then you realize, oh shit, now it's really foggy. And you can't really see much shit at all. You know, so it's just like, I mean, you get, you know, because it happens so slowly that you get used to the general spectral, like, element of, you know, what you adjust to, like whether it's like a light mist or a fog or whatever the hell. Which are just for... Now I'm scared for this charge. All science is worse than the worst predictions. Well, yeah. Which is why I said, like, I mean, at least, you know, at the end of the day, it's not something that happens overnight. And it's also something that, like, you know, builds up slowly but surely. And this is just one example of that. I mean, at least, you know, for California, it's not necessarily, you know, unprecedented. The hurricanes have hit the West Coast in the past, but it's very insanely fucking rare. Like, the last time it happened in California was in 1868, which, you can imagine, is a long fucking time ago. So, you know, like, the frequency is very rare, you know, to the point it's like a once every 150 some odd year occurrence, and it's likely to become more of a frequent thing. I mean, I don't know when the last time, you know, since 1868, hurricane happened to hit the West Coast, but I imagine it probably, you know, probably would have been around the same time frame, potentially, or something like that. I mean, I wouldn't know, but I at least know the last time since this one was in 1868, which is a long fucking time ago.
Time this was going on, like right smack dab in the middle of it, they got hit with an over 5.0 magnitude earthquake.
Ooh. Which honestly, over 5.0, that's not, like, disastrously bad, but considering there's flash floods and you got a tropical storm at the same time, that shit is going to be kind of fucked. I mean, yeah, like, because usually, like, anything between, like, a 5 to a 6, I mean, that's not usually, like, terrible. Usually no deaths happen. I mean, maybe minor injuries and some minor damage and stuff like that. But for the most part, you know, like, as long as you have infrastructure that, you know, is fairly sound for dealing with earthquakes, I mean, that's manageable. That's noticeable. Yeah. I think anything above a 5.0 is something that you can actually notice and kind of feel the rumbles of a little bit. Like, and sometimes, you know, depending on how severe it is, like, it might just be more like a, or it might just be like a, you know, or something like that. I mean, it does depend and does kind of vary a little bit, but, I mean, for the most part, it's, you know, it's something that you kind of get this, like, whoa, you know, kind of feeling. And like I said, could potentially cause minor damage, you know, mostly to, you know, property and stuff like that. Not really to people. At least, you know, and, like, it's pretty uncommon to hear about injuries, you know, from 5.0 earthquakes. I mean, anything that's like a 6.0 or higher, I mean, it's generally common to hear at least about some injuries, but, you know, at least around, like, the 5.0 range and stuff, like 5.0 to the 6.0 range, like, not really. I mean, it does happen sometimes, but it's usually just because, like, some shit fell on somebody, or, like, you know, the fucking bookshelf, you know, like, you know, toppled on someone, or, you know, or, like, some shit like that, or, like, something from, like, you know, a high, you know, like, you know, area, you know, like, fell because, you know, got shifted off of, like, a shelf or something like that. You know, just basically be random things like that. Which obviously is better than, like, having a building collapse on someone or some shit, you know? But still. I heard the flooding is destroying roads out there, too. Well, we've seen some of that. Like, there's some live stream footage, you know, that's been going on from storm chasers and shit. And, dude, yeah, like, a lot of those roads are fucked, dude. Like, they are just fucked. I mean, at least yesterday there was a few live streams that we checked out, from the couple streams from the afternoon and last night. So, yeah, I mean, shit's fucked. I mean, it certainly ain't good out there. I mean, it seems like most people are just handling it okay, but, I mean, it seems like people should have been taking it way more seriously. Because, like, I know this much of the general, like, zeitgeist was like, should we prepare for it? I don't know, it doesn't seem like it would be that bad. Who knows? I mean, whatever. Like, it's just kind of like a who cares mentality. And hopefully that, it ends up being kind of a rude awakening, I mean, it's not like it should have happened, but obviously, like, hopefully they'll take the realization and prepare next time.
They're calling...
Or at least do so more, like, more efficiently. I mean, obviously you can't just, like, prepare or expect, something like this or predict this happening, but now that it did happen, and considering the factor of things like climate change, the likelihood of this becoming more frequent is far more likely, and because of that, it is, something that, will become far more frequent, and thus it will have to have contingencies, to be able to adapt to that. Reading an old book of world records, and the record as of the 90s for lightning hits was 9 confirmed strikes by the same person. Dude was 28 when it happened. Damn. Wait, all at the same time? Or, like, just at different times in his life? Because, dude, that... Man, is that guy like an electric rod or something? Like, goddamn.
That I was like, oh my god, Jesus Christ, was this the big, like, San Andreas one that we've all been fearing for so long? No, apparently it was, like, what they consider, like, a moderate earthquake. So I'm going to show you some video of it. There's a lot to say about this, man. So first, let me show you this video. We'll keep talking about it as we go through
Over the course of the storm? Damn!
This is interesting because of the animals. Watch this.
Whoa.
It's so weird how the animals know, like, 5 seconds before it happens.
Dude, honestly, animals know this shit, dude. Like, there's like, I don't know, like, there's like a sixth sense that a lot of, like, that people don't really, like, hone into. Like, the idea of, like, oh, I can feel storm in my bones. That whole thing. There's actually some genuine truth to that, because, like, there's kind of like a sixth sense when we kind of tell there's like a storm brewing and shit like that, like the calm before the storm. I mean, there's actual merit to it, and, like dogs, cats, like a bunch of other animals recognize that type of stuff, and usually will try to, like, either find safety or, like, just go avoid, the area for a little bit, in order to protect their own selves, because they don't want to be caught in the storm and shit like that. Like, so, or, when it comes to things like an earthquake, because, like, they realize something about to happen, and, like, and legit will, like, kind of react to that. I'm convinced animals are slightly telepathic, for lack of a better word. I mean, it's not really telepathy, but I get what you mean, though. And that's why I kind of say it's like a sixth sense. Like, I mean, and I'd argue it's just being, like, tuned to the environment, really. Like, I mean, if you're tuned to the environment, to the point where it's like you kind of recognize where there's like a storm or brewing or whatever the fuck, I mean, I feel like that's kind of what that sixth sense, kind of comes into play a little bit. Because, I mean, people do it too. Like I said, it's like, if you got someone who's old, it's like, I can feel a storm coming along in my joints or whatever the fuck, stuff like that. I mean, people do it too. I mean, even if we don't necessarily recognize it. I mean, honestly, I'm sure a lot of these, like any animal, frankly, is the same way. They don't necessarily recognize it, but they know something's up, and they're like, what the fuck?
I really don't know for sure, but if I'm guessing, maybe they feel like the mic...
So lost most of its sense of nature. Yeah. I definitely don't disagree with you.
Shakes beforehand that we aren't picking up, but that's a wild video. Let me play one more time.
Yeah, because, like, this little dog was probably, just hanging out inside the house, and out of nowhere was like, rah, 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 rah. And then boom, and it ran out of the house. Like, the dog kind of recognized that something big and shaky is about to happen. It doesn't want to be, like, somewhere where, like a cave or anything. Like, or at least what it would perceive of as, like, a potential cave, like, or the house in this case.
Now, let me give you
And then the cars start going off too.
another one. I think this one is a little closer to the epicenter, so it's a little stronger. Let's see.
Damn, dude.
Ventura County.
Dude, that shit, like, rumbles hard, too.
So look, the earthquake...
I mean, yeah, it definitely was one that, you know, I know what you're supposed to do during one. Well, first of all, like, the main thing is you want to, like, you know, like, you want to be in between a door, like, you know, around, like, a door frame. Like, I mean, that's something that you want to be in because, like, it's got more strength and support in comparison to just being, like, in the middle of a hallway or something like that. Another tip is that I was taught to hide during nadir. Yeah. Another tip I've heard is a similar thing. If you have a bed tub and you're hiding in a tornado and the bathroom is one of the more secure, you know, buildings in your house or rooms in your house, then, you know, it would be kind of the same thing in that way, where you have like a big mattress, you know, over you while you're kind of huddled in the tub, because if things were to fall, you know, on top of you, then, well, you got a mattress to help, you know, make sure that you're, you know, padded down and not...
Things are falling on top of you.
Earthquake?
Yeah, okay, that might help.
Yeah.
If you're talking like a giant meteor or
No,
something...
well, at that point, you're just fucked. I mean, shit. Well,
you need to assume the position.
Assume the position for the meteor to go right up your ass and, you know, yeet you out.
What you do is you sit down, you grab your knees, you put your head between your knees like that, and you kiss your ass goodbye.
And then let the meteor penetrate that ass and just embrace the death by a meteor.
You won't, because your head will be in the way.
Well, I mean, hey, double penetration. Get a little DP going on, I don't know.
Sort of speaks for itself. We know that there's, you know, a giant
most humans
fault
want
in
to have
California.
their head up their ass anyhow, so...
I said, everybody's sort of holding their breath and hoping that the big one from the San Andreas fault doesn't come, because, honestly, from everything I've read, it appears to be relatively overdue. So that speaks for itself. It's crazy that it hit this same day. But honestly, the wilder thing is the hurricane at all. Because I'm sure you guys have read this or heard about this throughout your lives. I certainly have myself, that California is not supposed to get not only hurricanes, they're not even really supposed to get tropical storms. Now, why is that? For the very simple...
I mean, there's been times in the past where, you know, California has, like, pretty severe, you know, storms and shit. I mean, I feel like just because in the last, like, 20-something years, especially California having severe droughts and shit like that, I think, you know, it's kind of, you know, given this idea that, like, you know, it's just unusual. But, I mean, for a long time, I mean, you know, it was a lot more of a temperate area where, you know, there were, you know, more rainstorms, stuff like that. Maybe not to the level of a hurricane, obviously. I mean, that was pretty rare, to the point where... At least the one known time before this was 1868, you know? So it's just like, you know, but that at least shows that in times past, it does happen. Maybe not to any regular occurrence when it comes to things like, you know, a tropical storm or, like, you know, heavy rains and stuff. But, you know, at least in times past, California has had those, you know? So it's just like, I think a lot of it is just mostly due to, you know, a lot of factors due to climate change. And California and that... generally, that region of the world, you know, is an area that is going to get heavily impacted by it. When the big one's that overdue. Well, how do you think I feel? Because if the San Andreas fault line were to go off, there's a chance that, one, I would certainly feel to an extent. And for two, like, we got the Cascadian fault line over here. And there's a lot of volcanoes and mountains that are technically active but never gone off or anything like that. And aren't necessarily due to, unless some crazy shit like, you know, Cascadian fault line goes off or something. If that's the case, then yeah, they would. And in fact, it would be like a conga line of them all going off. That sounds great. I can imagine, like, the Three Sisters, Mount Hood, Mount Chester, all these mountains just like... It's like, oh yeah, that's certainly the, you know, looking to the east, you know, at the Cascade Mountains, that won't look apocalyptic.
And that the water...
Dante speaking Oregon. The Dante, I think that's supposed to be Washington.
in the Pacific Ocean by California is way, way cooler than what we have here on the East Coast. If you go to the water around Florida, for example, in Georgia, it is always, always way warmer. And it's that warmer ocean water that fuels tropical storms and hurricanes. So the general consensus is that they don't get hurricanes. They barely even get tropical storms in California. And a lot of that has to do with the water. If you go up further north by like Alaska, off the coast of Alaska, obviously freezing climate, and you have, the water is...
It's called the Arctic, my dude.
very cold, and it circulates down and around the west coast of the United States, so it always keeps that water way more cool. But obviously now, with everything that's been going on around climate change, El Nino as well, we're at a place where that water is not nearly as cool as it usually is.
And it's definitely a lot more warmer than, in times past. I mean, and if anything, like a lot of that, is probably going to stay consistent. Like, because, we're in an El Nino right now, and when it comes to the idea of, like, an El Nino or an El Nina, like, they're basically, essentially basically means that, like, when we're in, like, an El Nino season, and that means basically, like, weather / like, water current, stuff like that tend to be more warmer than average. And then, El Niñas are basically the opposite, where they tend to be more cold. Ah, fucking fly. Damn! Ugh! Right in my ear! But El Niña is basically the opposite, where they tend to be more colder on average. I mean, fucking bitch! Oh! God, that buzz just really fucked my ear up right there. Ugh! That was so uncomfortable. Holy shit. Oh my god, I just got my angst up so Jesus, fuck.
And we just got hit, California just got hit with what was a Category 1 hurricane and has now turned into a tropical storm. So, and also, let's just be clear, this is a bigger issue for the West Coast compared to the East Coast for the very simple reason about the soil. So, like, the ground in the East Coast, if it rains, well, we're accustomed to getting more rain, so the ground sort of absorbs the water, and of course the ground gets like a little mushy or whatever, but it doesn't lead to tremendous problems if you get a reasonable amount of rain. On the West Coast, if it rains, honestly, even a little bit, that dirt ground is basically like cement, so it doesn't absorb anything. And so
I mean, that's, like, honestly, that's how a lot of flash floods tend to happen. Like, I mean, Oregon, luckily, doesn't really get hit with this problem as much, because we got more, like, watersheds and aquifers, stuff like that. But, for California, it's a lot more different, at least, especially for, like, central Southern California, and it's certainly not wrong. Like, I mean, especially in, like, desert regions, this is also why you see, like, like, for example, like in the Kalahari Desert in Africa, for example, like, for most of the year, it's dry and deserty and barren, right? Like, but especially during springtime, there's a lot of mass rains that hit it, and with that, a lot of the Kalahari in various different areas, will get mass floods. And, I mean, it's all part of the general regional cycle, stuff like that, but this is what happens. And same thing happens in, really any desert, where it might get, like, a massive rainstorm or something like that. And basically, it causes, like, these little oasis pools, or, like, and a lot of absorption into the soil that, takes, a while, because, I mean, it's so dry over the year, that it has no real means to rapidly absorb that moisture. And same thing, especially for California, especially Southern California, where they're fucked with all this, rain right now. With all the, with the tropical storm and the fucking earthquake to boot. So it's just like, I mean, luckily, at least some of those places that, from the cameras that, Kyle is showing, look like some of those places weren't really nowhere near as fucked, from the tropical storm. But, I mean, like, I imagine some of these places are still really heavily impacted from a lot of flash flooding, and then that happened on top of it. And so, so I don't know what, like, an earthquake with a bunch of flooding going on, I don't know what that would do. Because that certainly will compromise a lot of structural integrity and stability when it comes to handling an earthquake, when it comes to a lot of infrastructure and shit. So it's like, man, dude, like, Southern California just got hit with, like, the fucking, curses of God or some shit, dude. Like, I mean, they got hit like the fucking Pharaoh, bro. It's like, Jesus Christ.
When you get,
or like these fucking psychopathic like preachers and shit like onto something with this. Like, what the fuck?
you know, these huge issues with massive flooding, and then
I'm honestly being facetious. I mean, they obviously weren't. They're psychotic. They're not. So, you know, obviously satire.
you know, the higher up you go, you get some mudslides and things of that nature. So I gotta show you some of these videos, man. So this right here is what's called a debris plug. It's a giant flood with a whole bunch of debris, and it's headed for Palm Springs. Watch this. Look at that.
Is he naturally near? No. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. Well, look, no. I mean, the thing is, like, when it comes to, you know, events like this, I mean, like, severe, you know, weather and environmental phenomena, you know, do happen. And, I mean, whether it's due to climate change or not, I mean, it is something that has happened. I mean, remember those massive earthquakes that hit Indonesia and shit? Or was it India? It was like somewhere in Oceania or like in Indochina, or it was somewhere around there. But there was like, I think this was like in the mid 2000s, like what, like 2006 or something like that. And like there was a massive earthquake off the coast, and it caused a massive fucking tsunami and shit. And a lot of people, you know, were like killed and stuff like that. I mean, you know, there was like, you know that insane event. There was obviously Katrina. Like, there's a lot of very insane, disastrous, you know, things that happen and shit. And yes, granted, it's going to happen probably at a more accelerated rate, but like, these aren't exactly unique, you know, to human history, unfortunately. I mean, you know, it's just like, that's kind of reason why, you know, being able to at least adapt when things like this, you know, happen is, you know, why it needs to, you know, like, be taken into heavy consideration. Because, I mean, you can't really, you know, like, when it comes to climate and the weather and stuff like that, you can't really necessarily, like, you know, stop every single little thing, but you can at least do what you can to mitigate, you know, different factors, and at least, you know, do what you can to adapt to the circumstances. What's that? Fukushima? No. Yeah, that was, I think, in 2011, and that was with a different earthquake that happened more near Japan. Which the earthquake itself didn't really do that much damage. It was the tsunamis afterwards, which was pretty much the same thing. I mean, if anything, earthquakes that happen off the coast are way more fucking dangerous and deadly because of the, you know, tsunamis and shit, more so the ones that happen inland. Just because, like, it, you know, because a lot of what normally causes a lot of that shaking and shit is now underwater, and now you have all this body of water that gets like, and then, you know, causes these massive waves, and now, you know, and that, you know, can, depending how far away it is from a coastline, especially if it's heavily populated, it can be fucking disastrous. And, you know, like I was talking about the incident, you know, I was referring to, and with, you know, 2011, like, both of those are examples where, I mean, obviously you can't necessarily predict, you know, that type of shit outside of just, you know, doing what you can to mitigate, you know, whatever damage just happened. But at the end of the day, it's like, I mean, you know, it's like you can only really do what you can do. Maybe don't put a nuclear reactor on the coast. Well, the thing is, that wasn't, like, inherently the problem. It was the fact that they had their generators, and what powered it was gone ground level. They didn't, like, put them on the roofs or have them in a separate, higher elevated area or somewhere where they were more likely to be safe from flooding or anything like that. So when the tsunami went over the seawall and shit, like, it flooded some of the nuclear reactor, which normally would have been okay, you know, and still would have been fine if the generators also weren't flooded. Like, because, I mean, the site itself wasn't, like, you know, totally, you know, fucked up from it outside of some minor water damage here and there, but when the generators got flooded, that's when everything got fucked. And that's when, you know, the meltdown happened, because there was no way for, you know, the proper shutdown to, you know, begin, and it just, well, it melted down. I mean, still a human error, still a human flaw, but, you know, it wasn't really necessarily the location of it. I mean, if anything, it was fine. It was just, like, how they designed the overall, you know, facility. Like, because they should have put the generators somewhere where obviously it wouldn't have been likely to get flooded. Like, I mean, and, you know, because, you know, like I said, it's just one of those things where it's like, oh, fuck, well, now we adapt, you know, shit like that. But at least for that, you would have kind of figured, you know, because because with Japan, it, like, earthquakes and tsunamis, stuff like that, that's not exactly unusual. I mean, you know, and that's something that is pretty typical. In fact, I mean, they had a lot of these levees seawall stuff already, but they weren't high enough, you know, and weren't sufficient enough when it came to when they got hit then. Which, I mean, you know, when it comes to maintaining and keeping up to date and adapting, that also includes, like, maybe every now and then adding an extra foot, you know, to some of these seawalls or something. You know, like, you know, retrofitting them up a little bit. You know, just to make sure. Extra protection, extra assurance. But either way, it's, you know, it's just one of those things where, you know, you have to, like, adapt and mitigate as much as possible when these things happen. And honestly, sometimes, I mean, like, humanity, you know, can be a little too stupid about it, but, I mean, you know, that's why it's just gotta do what, you know, especially what you can do, you know, in these situations. I mean, dude, look at this debris field, too. Holy shit.
For everybody just watching, I'll explain what it looks like. First of all, it looks gross. Second of all, it's like a whole bunch of like trees,
logs,
and wood, and debris in the muddiest water you've ever seen, and it's like a raging river, sort of
look
like
at that,
like a low-level tsunami just rushing downhill. This is crazy,
and it's just mushing itself into that fucking like rapids over there.
And I don't think I've ever seen anything like this. And just for the record,
I mean, I have. Like, I've seen some pretty crazy videos like this before. I've seen some of these where, like, some bridges have literally been destroyed because of things like this. Like, shit like this right here is, like, especially with how fast this, you know, flow is going, that is deadly. Like, that is scary dangerous. I wouldn't, like, I wouldn't be on a bridge knowing that this is underneath it.
Pretty avid watcher of the Weather Channel.
Oh, what the fuck are those? Are those like rocks just floating on top or something? What the fuck? Maybe not rocks, but
I'll turn on
plates?
the Weather Channel and sit there and watch it and learn about the horror.
Oh my god, there it goes.
Or whatever.
It's gone now.
I've never even seen a debris plug, so this is certainly new to me. This is crazy, man. This is some wild stuff.
This is the unlimited power of Hillary Rodham Clinton, dude. Oh my god.
And you'll see how bad the situation is throughout Southern California. By the way, do me a big favor, support the show on Patreon, because I don't know how long this video is going to be up. I might get hit with some copyright stuff or some patent stuff, because a lot of people with these viral videos end up selling it to a third-party company that then cracks down on everybody and jacks their revenue. So do your boy a big favor and support the show on Patreon, link below, or tip on YouTube. That helps as well. All right, here we go. Major flooding from Tropical Storm Hillary.
Hillary on the coast, Hillary on the west coast. I'm just always gonna think about that, honestly. Why they really had to, they really need to make a new name for this. Like, it had to be Hillary. It's low-key bit sexy close up. Yeah, but have it so suddenly be like, bump, like right there, it's just like, whoa. It's very sudden.
Hilarious that it's named Hillary. And this is in Palm Springs. Watch this. Wow.
Is this some of the aftermath of the debris field? What the fuck is all floating down? What are these? Whoa. What's all that?
That house is toast, man.
Oh my god. Yeah, those houses are fucked, dude. Dude, look at that truck. Dude, this is like 3 feet or 4 feet, dude. Look at that. Dude, everything in this area is fucked. What's all this shit? Oh my god, everything's one upload right now.
I think most of these videos came last night, too. So, today, I'm sure it's even worse. Now, this was Baja, California, which, as you know, is like down that little, I want to call it panhandle, but I don't know if that's the right word.
It's a peninsula.
Little, like, sliver of land coming down at the southern...
Female Tate. Just pearly things.
California. And by the time Hillary made landfall here, it was still a Category 1 hurricane, so they probably got hit even harder than what you're going to see around LA, for example. Watch this. Look at this. Wow.
Whoa.
I mean, this is a town destroyed, and this is right on the heels of what happened in Maui with the colossal wildfires. That, by the way, Biden today is visiting Maui, and By the way, that had to do with
Looks like you might have to visit California now too, huh, bucko?
electrical grid too. There were issues with the electrical grid, which then led to the extreme. There was the extreme wind event at the same time, and so that's what sparked the wildfire. And then, by the way, the death.
Oh, and I also heard, speaking of the Maui fire, that the like city officials and like law enforcement and like the firefighters and shit did not sound the fucking sirens, and like thousands and a shitload of people pretty much argue that like if they did that, like dozens of lives could potentially have been saved, but because they didn't do that, like, you know, a bunch of people, you know, like, you know, died because of like legit overt negligence. And it like, and basically the like, I think it was like the chief of, you know, like the firefighter chief or some shit, I forgot who, but like they were basically like, they're saying, it's like, do you regret not sounding alarms? They're like, no, we don't. And it's just like, what? Like, are you fucking kidding me? Fuck the fire department. Well, I don't know if it was or not. I forgot exactly who, but I mean, you could go find it. Like, there's like it was during like a press conference like sometime earlier last week. Honestly, I forgot to talk about it because I didn't really think about it until just now.
1,000 in Maui. We don't know anything yet in terms of what's going on in this situation, but there's a lot of flooding, a lot of serious flooding that they're dealing with.
It looks like some warring river, but like where instead of what is normally a river, it's just a street. It's just like, fuck, dude.
Easy video. All right, I still got more for you. This is again Palm Springs. They were getting hit with tremendous flooding. Here's another example of it. One of the roads is just swamped.
That's a road? Well, it was a road. That's just random shit. Look.
At the same time, we got hit with a hurricane on in California, on the West Coast, Southern California. There's also 30,000 people being evacuated in
Palm Springs, California? Yes.
Canada because of their out-of-control wildfires. Like I just pointed out, you have the Maui wildfires. And then now, we're getting to the peak of hurricane season, and many experts are predicting that this hurricane season is going to be worse than others because the water on the southern coast of the United States, there were times where it was literally 100 degrees. It was like being in a freaking hot tub in Key West, Florida. People.
And how in the fuck does that even happen? Like, how do you like exist, or how, like, as just an ocean being, you know, in that water? Like, you're basically getting, like, if you're a crab, you're basically getting slow cooked or some shit. Like, you might as well just, like, go straight to the fucking, like, seafood restaurant at that point. Like fuck.
On the water over there. And again, that's going to fuel tropical storms and hurricanes. And so now, look at this, guys. There is a conveyor belt of what's called disturbances in the Atlantic Ocean. And
a conveyor belt?
The things that usually develop into either tropical storms or hurricanes. So I think one of these is at the time I'm talking to you right now, sort of dissipated.
So if I have to go deep into the water to survive? Yeah, pretty much. And then, you know, it's like, I mean, which for a lot of sea life, they aren't exactly adapted for that. Like, there's a lot of ocean life that is more coastal, so they don't really go down to the level of like thousands of feet. Like, it really at most it'll go at like, you know, around the 100 so feet range. Like, so a lot of animals are not exactly going to be able to just simply adapt to that. I mean, maybe over time, but like, I don't know if they will be able to quick enough.
There was a conveyor belt, like 5 potential tropical storms or hurricanes that were firing up because of the incredible heat of that water. Now, like I said, one of them dissipated, but I think we're still, at least as of this moment, dealing with 4 potential colossal storms. They could stay at the tropical storm level, or they could graduate into hurricane level. And again, dealing with the water as extremely hot as it is right now, they're predicting this season to have a number of major hurricanes. So I think what I saw was like 4 or 5 major hurricanes is what they're.
I mean, didn't we already have like a bunch from last year? Weren't there like 9 hurricanes last year or something?
Because of the extreme heat of the water. We're at the point now where it's not just the empirical data that is pointing to the fact that the climate is changing. It's not just the empirical data. Now, people's anecdotal experience is lining up with the empirical data. And so you think that would be...
Well, no shit. Give it enough time. I mean, of course. I mean, yeah, when you give it enough time, of course people's anecdotal experiences are going to hit with this. I mean, hell, like, honestly, even in some more rural conservative farm towns and shit like that, I mean, legitimately, like, there are some that are like, yeah, no, climate, it does play a role. The fact that I don't get enough of a fucking harvest this year and stuff like that, blah, blah, blah. Like, so some of, like, even though they, don't necessarily, go for their best interest and shit, I mean, yeah, like, I mean, anecdotal experience, just, like, confirms the fact that, like, climate change is real. And, even, to, like, if you look at some of these conservative farmers and shit like that, like, in, like, Montana or something, right, like, you'll find, some of them legit saying, like, yeah, our crop years are due to the fact there's more droughts and, climate's, playing a factor. And, yeah, humanity's kind of done something about that. I mean, they're not going to be, like, some environmental gun-ho, like, environmentalists or something like that. But, like, I mean, they'll at least recognize it and say, yeah, we should probably do something about that. And at the very least, I mean, that's something. And, and they recognize that shit. I mean, at a certain point, because, like, even if you think, humanity doesn't play as big of a role in this and that or whatever the fuck, it's just, like, fundamentally, like, it's there. And, and there's only so much, you can just, like, stay blind to before you have to just fucking admit it. If a bunch of religious say, this God's wrath is evil LGBT immigrants are taking over California with Antifa with their lawless, godless atheism. And communism, I say. Grooming all the kids to be lawless, evil, atheistic commies. And trans, too. Oh, define fix your partner. Well, nice. Let's see this last little thing he says here.
Or holy cow, we got to do something about this, man. But no, you have, basically a well-funded industry by big oil and the fossil fuel companies, and they still raised out, they still muddy the waters, they still try to convince people, like, no, this is just weather, and weather changes day by day, and, everything goes in cycles, and it's natural what's happening with it, and there's a very strong effort to convince people not to believe their eyes and ears. And,
Mom's one of those things, it's all natural after all. She says, aha, to the age of dinosaur. Yeah, and also literally humanity could never exist at that time. We literally wouldn't be able to breathe. There wouldn't be enough oxygen for us to survive. Like, and that's just a literal fact. So it's like, oh yeah, it's all natural. It's like, oh yeah, just because it happens to be, quote, natural doesn't necessarily mean we could live in those times. So yeah, like, letting it happen, so we're basically, like, reenacting and LARPing, to, like, the globe as, like, dinosaur age again, but let's say if we can handle it, yeah, that doesn't work.
Point, look, if you're not convinced by this stuff that I'm showing you here, I don't know what the hell's gonna convince you. Wildfires massively out of control in a bunch of different places, especially in Canada. You have, and they're stronger, and they last longer because of climate change. You have a hurricane and a tropical storm hitting Southern California, which doesn't happen. Guys, the last time it happened was like over 80 years ago. And
well over 80 years ago.
Now, you got this conveyor belt of potential giant storms firing up in the Atlantic, so it's getting ugly out there, man. And it's one thing to talk about the problems. I think the solutions are important to talk about as well. And you know the deal. There's no magic to any of this. We have to do a complete transition.
I mean, yeah, no shit. I mean, we know what he's about to say here for the last little bits. I mean, it's just like there needs to be a fundamental transition to, like, how humanity works with this shit. And frankly, I think there, at this rate, could probably be some more radical means, to be done with that. But unfortunately, not all of those means, can be discussed. I wish, though, that will do it. Well, the thing is, there's going to be, like, a lot of people, I don't know if enough, but a lot of people that will be doing shit about it. I think it's too late. Yeah. Granted, I'm pretty cynical about, shit, especially when it comes to climate change, but even then, I don't really think it's too late. Ain't too late till the fat lady sings, as far as I care. Oh shit, I have a thing.
From the government. They're here to help.
Well, maybe they are. I don't know if
Hopefully.
I'll open that later.
Usually if I don't see the Statue of Liberty and the green inside, it's usually not that good, but you never know.
I'll at least get myself off to work and all that fun shit for it be time. There we go, a little bit. It's still somewhat functioning. Well, I mean, you definitely gotta enjoy yourself. I mean, you know, at the end of the day, that's what you gotta do. I mean, you can't, like, you know, let the gloom of the world, you know, consume you, you know what I mean? So, but, hey, with that, you know, little positive note, I'll head off to work and all that fun stuff, so